This video will begin a series of videos covering Jetpack from WordPress.com. This particular video is going to do an overview of what Jetpack is and what it can offer you, and how to turn it on and make it go. So let's dive right in. WordPress.com is a hosted solution for WordPress. So you can go, sign up, create a blog, and away you go. They take care of everything. Sort of like Blogger or something like that. The folks behind WordPress.com have built a number of plugins that until recently have only worked on WordPress.com. Things that enhance stats and comments and things like that. People kept asking for those out on their own installs though, and so the folks at WordPress.com created Jetpack to allow access on some of that information on your own hosted blog. The page we're looking at here is the plugin page for Jetpack on WordPress.org. But you can also go to jetpack.me, and it does a better job, in my opinion, of listing what's available to you. As you can see, there are a number of plugins here that do a variety of things. Most of them are free. Two of them at this point are not free, and that's because they provide drive space and some CPU power for you. VideoPress is one that's not free, and Wordpress is one that's not free. Wordpress is a backup service. So let's take a look at getting this set up. Jetpack requires an account on WordPress.com, even if you don't have a blog there. Then all of the information that it stores for you is stored in that account. It's not publicly available, but can be accessed with your API key. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to WordPress.com, and I'm going to log in with my username. I do have a few things set up there. I have a little blog, and I have some access to other people's blogs. But at the moment, I don't need to do anything in here. I simply want to be logged in. So I'm going to go over to my own site and install Jetpack. It's done the normal way. As you can see, there are some other add-ons for Jetpack that aren't necessarily created by WordPress. We're not going to cover those, but you should take a look at them because some of them can be interesting. Now the plugin is activated. Here at the top, it says your Jetpack is almost ready. A connection to WordPress.com is needed to enable features like stats, connect forms, and subscriptions. Connect now and get fueled up. So I'm going to click Connect. And this is what actually connects your blog to WordPress.com. As you can see in the URL here, we're at jetpack.wordpress.com now. And it's asking me to authorize this connection. Now, if I were not already logged into WordPress.com, it would ask me to log in first, and then ask me to authorize. I just found it easier to log in beforehand. This is similar to allowing apps to have access to your Twitter account. You're just authorizing it. They don't have your password or anything like that. So I'm going to authorize. Now here it says connected to WordPress.com, and you can see if you hover it over it, you can disconnect from WordPress.com. And now here are your options for plugins for Jetpack. There's Publicize, stats, notifications, there's some comments, subscriptions, carousel, post by email, etc. Some of them say learn more, some of them say activate, and we'll go over the difference in another video. But as of right now, Jetpack is installed and ready to go. And in the next videos, we're going to go over each one of the different options that you have with it. In this session, we're going to look at the Publicize option in Jetpack. The brief description here says, connect your site to popular social networks and automatically share new posts with your friends. Basically, it makes it so when you post on your blog, it sends a Facebook post and a tweet and whatever else you want to configure. You'll see here there's a Learn More button. This means that Publicize is actually already activated. Over on the right here, you'll see Jetpack Comments has an Activate button. That means it is not activated. All that's left to do on Publicize is to configure. Let's click Learn More first and see what's there. It basically just gives you a little bit more, verbose description of what's going to go on. And here is a link that goes to another site that tells you some more information about it. Let's take a look real quick. This is basically documentation. This is good stuff to read and good to remember. But let's just fire it up and see what happens. I'm going to close Learn More and click Configure. And out of the box here it does Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Tumblr, and Path. There's an option here for Google+, but that's actually a different Jetpack module that we'll cover in another video. You can also optionally add these sharing buttons simply by dragging them down into here. And you can decide what the buttons look like. We'll get to those in a little bit. First, I'm going to connect a Twitter account. Now, I'm already logged into Twitter. This is a very old account I don't really use much anymore. You're welcome to follow it, but you will be bored, I promise. So I'm going to click Add New Twitter Connection. Now, because I'm already logged into Twitter, it doesn't ask me to log in, it just asks me to authorize this app. This application will be able to read tweets from my timeline, see who I follow and follow new people, update my profile, and post tweets for me. If that bothers you, don't do this. Otherwise, authorize app. And now we've successfully connected our blog. There's an option here to make this connection available to all users of this blog. If you have multiple people blogging on this one blog, then all of them would post their tweets to this Twitter feed. If you want that, click this box. If you want each one of them to do it themselves, then don't click this box. There, now we've made this connection. Let's try making a post and see what happens. We'll just call this test post from my WordPress blog. Now over here on the right, it says Publicize, Twitter, @Topher1blog. Let's click Edit and see what it says. We could set up a custom message for this. By default, it uses the title. But we could make it say anything we want. Additionally, if we had hooked up Facebook, etc., those would be listed here, and we could say only publish on Twitter or only Facebook, etc. I'm going to open this settings link in a new tab. And as you can see, it goes back to here. Probably not what you want to do very often, but maybe. So I'm just going to go ahead and post this the way it is. There. Now it's done. Let's take a look at my Twitter stream. And here you can see test post. And there's a link directly to my post. You can see the URL is wp.me and then some random characters. This is called a URL shortener. It makes it so that if you have a very long URL that might take up an entire tweet, it can be compressed down into this. and it routes through WordPress.com. That's how they translate it to the longer URL. So let's just click it. And there we are. Now this process would work the same for all of the different social networks we could hook up. Facebook, LinkedIn, Tumblr, Path, etc. Let's take a look down here at the sharing buttons. Add sharing buttons to your blog and allow your visitors to share posts with their friends. Let's put email, Twitter, and print on there. There, now these services are activated. Here you can see what they're going to look like. This would be the icon and some text. If you switch to icon only, then you get only the icon, text only, and official buttons. I'm going to do icon and text. The sharing label just says share this. Open links, I'm going to change that to new window. Show buttons on. I'm going to show it on the front page, archive pages, and search results. And then save changes. Now let's go to the home page. And now there's this little share drop down. There's Twitter, print, and email. Now if I click print, it just brings up my print dialog. If I click Twitter, it brings up a box to share it on Twitter. Email brings up a little box and asks me to put in an email address. As you can see, there are many options here. You should really only use the ones that are important to you, or perhaps some that you really want to get into. One more thing, at the very bottom here, you could turn off CSS and JavaScript for this. That would make it look really ugly and not function well until you recoded something. Generally, you don't want to do this. However, you can. And so if you're a developer and it's important to you, you're welcome to do that. So that's the Publicize plugin. To review, it makes it so that when you do a post, it cross-posts it for you to your various social networks. As well, it allows you to put icons on your site for people to click to share your site. In this session, we're going to look at WordPress.com stats. Here you can see the module for Jetpack, and it says simple, concise site stats with no additional load on your server. For those of you familiar with Google Analytics, this is very similar, though not as in-depth. One of the big advantages it has over Google Analytics is that it actually works on the server side rather than through JavaScript. So it can more easily do things like count image loads and things like that. It also will work if someone has JavaScript turned off. Let's look at the Learn More here. This particular box doesn't actually give us much more information. It does provide a link to our stats dashboard, but we're not going to look at that just yet. Let's check out Configure. Here at the top is another link to our site stats. We'll take a look at that in a few minutes. Our first option is Admin Bar. Put a chart showing 48 hours of views in the admin bar. That bar is here at the top, and even though I have it checked, I don't see the chart. That's because I have not had this plugin activated for more than 48 hours, so the information isn't there. After 48 hours, it will appear there. On some sites that I've run, I've noticed that just that little chart can actually slow down the site quite a bit for a logged in user. Not your normal users, but you, or if you have a high number of logged in users, it could slow it down for them. You'll want to do some testing there. Then there's a section here for registered users. Count the page views of registered users who are logged in. I have none checked right now, which means I could browse the site all day long And if I were the only one doing it, my stats would not increase at all, because it doesn't count me. This is good if you don't want to count you, if you are the primary user of your site. However, as you can see, you can count certain levels. For example, if your site is the type that has a high number of logged in subscribers, just normal users, but happen to be logged in, you may want to count them to see where people are going and what they're doing. I'm going to leave it off. I'm going to leave them all unchecked for now. The smiley. Hide the stats smiley face image. The image helps collect stats and makes the world a better place. You see that little smiley right there? Now, I'm going to bring the site up in a different browser so that I'm not logged in. And then I can show you where the smiley appears. This is the home page, and right down here at the bottom is a little smiley. It's used to help track stats and things like that. As the link said, you can turn it off, but leaving it on sort of shows a measure of solidarity to say, hey, I'm using WordPress statistics. It's up to you. Then here you can say who is allowed to check out the stats. Right now, only the administrator, nobody else. You could optionally allow editors, authors, contributors, or even subscribers to look at them. So that's it for configuration. Let's see what our stats have to show us. As I've mentioned, I haven't had this plugin running for very long, so I don't have very much information in here. Normally, this would be a bar chart with all kinds of stuff on there. Since I only have one day, that's the only information I have. You can see it shows me 3 views. Here it says today 3, best ever 5 views. All time 6 views. So this is the best day I've ever had. Down here we can look at referrers. A referrer is a click from another site that links to yours. I don't have any, obviously, because nobody's linking to this blog. However, if I wrote a great post and somebody blogged about my post and linked to it, and people clicked on that link and came to my post, here it would tell me where they were coming from. So if you suddenly get a lot of traffic, you can come here and say, oh, look, somebody over there did a post about me, and that's sending a lot of traffic to me. Search engine terms. These are terms that people use in Google or Bing or Yahoo or whatever that lead them to your website. So if somebody searched for Topher and clicked on the top link and it came here, it would show that Topher was a search engine term. This can help you figure out what people are searching for when they find you. And that can help you decide how people think of your site. Here's a subscriptions option, blog followers and comments. It's possible to subscribe to a blog and to get posts via email or RSS or whatever, and this would tell you how many you have. Clicks are viewers clicking outbound links on your site. So these would be links that take people off your website. So if you did a post about somebody else's site and they clicked on it and went over to that other site, it would show you. Then we have top posts and pages. As you can see, my test post is far more popular than my homepage and archives. But you can click on this little chart for an individual item, and it will load more detail. Now again, this would be a beautiful bar chart if I had had it up for many days, but I don't. And then down here it gives you more time, so you could say how many you had in October or November, December, etc. And then it'll even show you by weeks. Down here is an important bit of information. It tells you how they determine things. What is a click? What is a view? And things like that. An average is the sum of views divided by the number of days. We exclude days prior to the first recorded view and future days. Today, October 26th, is excluded from averages because it isn't over yet. Yearly averages are compiled from sums, not an average of monthly averages. Averages are rounded to the nearest integer for display. Gray zeros are exactly 0. Black zeros have been rounded down. And percent change is computed from weekly averages before they are rounded. That's pretty much it for site stats. Those of you that are experienced with Google Analytics will realize that this is far less detailed than Google Analytics. However, as I mentioned earlier, it does have some distinct advantages in counting certain things. Using site statistics is a complicated process. Learning how to get value out of them is much bigger than simply looking at a chart and saying, hey, I got more than yesterday. If you're really interested in understanding site traffic, I recommend that you investigate some theory of site statistics, because it can get very complicated. That said, if you simply want to know if you had more hits than yesterday, this is a great tool. In this session, we're going to talk about the notifications that Jetpack offers. Here you can see, monitor and manage your site's activity with notifications in your toolbar and on WordPress.com. You'll note that there is not a configure button here. There's nothing to configure. It just works. Let's click Learn More. Keep up with the latest happenings on all your WordPress sites and interact with other WordPress.com users. You can view your notifications in the toolbar and on WordPress.com. The little picture here shows an icon next to the name. And sure enough, here I have a little icon next to my name. But nothing happens when I hover over it. That's because I don't have any notifications. Let's go look at WordPress.com. It says, no notifications. Time to go bowling. I don't know if you're a bowler or not, but that sounds pretty fun. Instead, let's press on. Here we have latest, unread, comments, follows, likes, reblogs, and awards. These are things that are available on WordPress.com and now are available on your own site. Let's try and make a notification happen. I'm going to leave a comment on a post. I'm going to do it in a different browser so that I'm logged out. We'll leave one right here. Now let's post a comment. Now it says your comment is awaiting moderation. Now let's reload this page. And it says pending. Topher commented on your post, test post. Let's go back here, reload this page, and you'll see that there's actually nothing here. That's because in the admin bar, comments are notified over here. That's independent of Jetpack. That's the way it's always been. You'll note there's also a 1 down here. However, it is listed here, and we can click it. We can reply, trash, spam, or approve right here from WordPress.com. I'm going to trash this one. And now you can see it's in the trash. You could untrash it. Now one of the options here is unread. I'm going to actually log into my site as a different user and create a post. And then this user should see a notification that there's an unread post. There, so I'll just publish this like that. Reload. If you hover over this icon, nothing happens, but if you click it, it pops up and you can see that someone commented on my post. I can click that, a little window pops up, and I can reply, trash, spam, or approve, just like on WordPress.com. On a small site, where you're the only user, you probably won't get a whole lot of notifications in here, mostly comments. However, if you set up a larger site with multiple authors and things like that, you'll get a lot more notifications. If you install a social network plugin like BuddyPress or BBPress, you'll get lots of notifications about new forum posts and friend requests and things like that. In summary, notifications are most useful when you have multiple users on the site. If it's just you, you may not end up using it very much. In this session, we're going to talk about Jetpack comments. Here you can see the box is grayed out. That means it's not activated like the others. The description is a new comment system that has integrated social media login options. Let's click Learn More. Jetpack Comments enables your visitors to use their WordPress.com, Twitter, or Facebook accounts when commenting on your site. Jetpack tries to match your site's color scheme automatically, but you can make manual adjustments at the bottom of the discussion settings page. Basically what this does is remove the built-in comment system from WordPress and replace it with one that is run from WordPress.com. But you can log in with your WordPress account or your Twitter account or your Facebook account. One of the advantages of this system is that if you're logged into those and you go to a site that uses Jetpack comments, it magically knows who you are so that you can just start typing a comment. Before we activate it, I want to look at the site with normal comments. These are the default WordPress comments. Now let's activate it. If we want to deactivate it, we go to Learn More, and then the Deactivate button comes back. Let's go to Configure. And now we have two new sections here. Jetpack Subscription Settings. Change whether your visitors can subscribe to your posts or comments, or both. And Jetpack Comments. Adjust your Jetpack Comments form with a clever greeting and color scheme. So you can change the text and you can change a color scheme. Let's save changes just the way they are. Now let's go back to that page in the other browser. Reload and see how it looks. Now it's not asking for my name anymore. If I click here, I can leave a reply. I could type in my normal information. Let's start the reply. Now, instead of putting in this information, I could click on any of these. There's WordPress, Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. Let's try Twitter. I'm going to authorize WordPress.com to use my account. There. Now it knows who I am. It doesn't have my email address or website, but it has my Twitter handle. And so you could go there to find out that information about me if I've made it public. Here I can choose to log out of Twitter on this account. Or I could choose to be logged in with Facebook, etc. So now I'll post a comment. And there we are. Now, there are several interesting things to note here. You can see here that my comment is awaiting moderation. If I go back to my website and look up in the top bar, you'll see that my notifications icon is orange. That's because someone just now posted a comment, and that would be me. I could click and approve, etc. Now, something you probably didn't notice is that while I was leaving a reply, all of this went away and a big thing came up that said it was submitting my comment. That's because it was actually communicating with WordPress.com. If you're a developer, it may interest you to know that this comment form is actually an iframe and it exists on WordPress.com. Once the comment is made, then it appears in your normal comments queue and you can deal with it as a normal comment because it is a normal comment. So to summarize, Jetpack comments allow you to route your comments through WordPress.com. And this provides several things for you. People can choose to use their WordPress.com username or Facebook or Twitter to log in, and then they don't have to leave their name, email, website address, etc. And the more people that use Jetpack comments, the less often you will have to log in to leave a comment anywhere. There are a few things to be wary of. If WordPress.com is having some problems and someone tries to leave a comment, it won't work. However, your own site may be working just fine, and so this can be confusing for users. This is extremely rare, as WordPress.com has wonderful uptime, but it's just something to keep in mind in case it happens. In this session, we're going to look at Jetpack's Subscriptions module. Here you can see you can allow users to subscribe to your posts and comments to receive a notification via email. Let's click Learn More. Easily allow any visitor to subscribe to all of your posts via email through a widget in your blog's sidebar. Every time you publish a post, WordPress.com will send a notification to your subscribers. When leaving comments, your visitors can also subscribe to a post's comments to keep up with the conversation. To use the Subscriptions widget, go to Appearance, Widgets. Drag the widget labeled Blog Subscriptions Jetpack into one of your sidebars and configure away. You can also make changes to your subscriptions settings at the bottom of the Discussion Settings page. Let's take a look at that one real quick. In another session, I accidentally ascribed the Jetpack subscription settings to the Jetpack Comments module. They're actually not related to that one, they're only related to this one. Here we have the options to follow blog or to follow comments. Let's see what that might look like. I'm going to leave a reply here. And here we have notify me of a follow-up comments by email and notify me of new posts by email. This is particularly handy if you only want to keep in touch with a particular comment thread on a particular post, as opposed to hearing about all the traffic on the entire website. But let's take a look at the widget now. We'll go to Appearance, Widgets. We'll remove these. And here we have Blog Subscriptions Jetpack. There's the title, some optional text, a subscribe button, and you can optionally show the total number of subscribers. So we'll just hit save. So now let's take a look at the front end of the website. And here you can see there's a form to subscribe via email. All you have to do is put in an email address, and every time there is a post, you will get an email. There's not a whole lot to this plugin. It enables someone to subscribe to comments and someone to subscribe to the whole site. And that's about it, but it works quite well. In this session, we're going to talk about a Jetpack module called Photon. Photon is essentially a content delivery network, or CDN, that uses WordPress.com as the source for your images. As you can see, it's grayed out. That means it's not active by default. Let's click Learn More. It simply says give your site a boost by loading images in posts from the WordPress.com content delivery network. We cache your images and serve them from our super fast network, reducing the burden on your web host with the click of a button. If you're unfamiliar with the idea of a content delivery network, I recommend doing some research on it. The general idea is that specific kinds of content are served from servers that are specifically built for that kind of content. So you can get an images CDN or a video CDN, etc. Putting that kind of content on a CDN greatly reduces the stress on your own server, while delivering that content much more quickly. Before I activate this, I'm going to insert an image the normal way so we can see it being served from my server. Here's a post with no image. Click Edit. I'll choose this image. And there we are. Update. Now that was in my media library, and I added it the normal way. Let's go look at our post. There's the image. And you can see from the URL here that it's pulling directly from my server. Now let's turn Photon on. We'll go down and look at the read more. You'll note there aren't any links to options or anything. That's because there aren't any. That's it. It's on and it works. Let's take a look. I'll reload my page. And now view source on this image. And here in the URL you can see it's coming from i1.wp.com. That means it's coming from WordPress.com. Now, when this page loaded the first time, it grabbed that image, uploaded it to WordPress.com, and then served it back here. Let's try uploading an image while Photon is already on. Here's a picture of some water shooting up out of the floor at a water park. My daughter took this picture. So I'm going to insert into post, update, now this photo is not yet on WordPress.com. It's merely uploaded to our media library on our own server. The first time we load the page, it's probably going to take just a second because that's when it uploads it to WordPress.com. There isn't a whole lot else to say about Photon specifically. All it does is make your images be served from WordPress.com's server. The real gold is understanding what a CDN is and how it can speed up your site. So I recommend you learn about that also. One of the great things about Photon is that it still stores all your images in your local media library. So if you decide you don't want it, you simply deactivate it, and you're back to serving from your own server again. In this session, we're going to look at the Infinite Scroll module of Jetpack. Infinite Scroll means that when you get to the bottom of the page, more posts will be added automatically without having to reload, and you can just keep on going until you run out of content. I've imported a large number of posts from the WordPress testing site, and I've set it up to only show 3 posts on the home page. I actually have 4 because the first one is sticky and it doesn't count. So there's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Well, 4 is kind of long, but it ends with the variable tag here. So now let's go turn on Infinite Scroll. It's one of the modules that does not come activated. Let's click Learn More first. There aren't any links in here, so let's simply activate it and see what we get. Now there's a configure button. All it really does is take us to a certain spot in the reading section of the settings. And here it can be turned on and off even while that module is activated. So now let's see what happens to our home page. Now we had 4 posts. There's 1, 2, 3, and there's the 4th. Now let's go down and see what we get. And there's another one. And another one. Now one way you can tell this is working is by watching the scroll bar. Check out the location of the little drag bar here. I'm going to drag it all the way to the bottom quickly and watch it. And now it jumped up. That's because there's more. You can also see a little image indicating that things are loading if you go quickly enough. That's really all there is to infinite scroll. You turn it on and it works. Something very important to keep in mind, though, is that if you have important links in your footer, they'll be very hard for someone to get to, because every time they go down there to look, infinite scroll will add some more posts and push it down some more. So please keep that in mind when turning this on. This is an interesting tool because it adds some specific functionality, but some people may not want it, and some people want it very much. So you really need to pay attention to your audience and find out if this is a good idea for your site or not. In this session, we're going to look at a Jetpack module called Carousel. Carousel is intended to make your WordPress photo galleries much more fun to look at and use. Let's start off simply by making a regular gallery before we turn Carousel on. Here I have a post with no gallery at all, and we'll edit it. Put in a gallery. There, now we have 5 images. And you'll note that they aren't all the same dimensions. They're different shapes and sizes. So I'm going to create new gallery. We'll link to the media file directly. I'll choose 3 columns, and we'll do a thumbnail grid. Update. And now reload this page. And there we have our gallery. One of the photos happened to have a caption. You'll note the thumbnails are all the same size, even though the images themselves were not. When I click, it just goes right to the image. So now let's turn on Carousel and see what happens. I'm going to click Learn More. And it says, with Carousel active, any WordPress galleries you have embedded in posts or pages will launch a gorgeous full-screen photo browsing experience with comments and EXIF metadata. EXIF metadata is information stored inside the image about what kind of camera took it, when it was taken, etc. There, without any changes at all, let's just see what it does. Now when I clicked it, it brought it up in this interface. There's a spot for a comment, there's aperture and camera, and I can scroll through the images. So before, when you clicked on an image, it took you to that image directly in the browser, and you had to press the back button to come back to this page. Now, it just pops right up. In addition to clicking this X to get out, you can hit Escape. And you can jump around to whichever one you want to go to first. In our next session, we'll talk about tiled images and how to make this interface right here much more attractive. In this session, we're going to look at a Jetpack module called Tiled Galleries. By default, WordPress galleries are a little boring to look at, and this module lets us make them much more visually interesting. Here's a default gallery in a default theme. All the thumbnails are the same size, even though the original images are not. They all have a little border around them, and one of them has a caption right here. Let's see what tiled galleries can do for us. Create elegant magazine-style mosaic layouts for your photos without having to use an external graphic editor. At the bottom here is a very important note. Images in tiled galleries require extra special processing, so they will be served from WordPress.com's CDN even if the Photon module is disabled. You probably won't care about this, but it's important to know. So let's click Activate and reload our gallery. And there we are. Now you'll note that they're all different sizes and shapes, and that this one's caption is a little pop-up. Now I still have the Carousel module activated, so we can still do things like this. That's not really related to the Tiled Galleries module, but it's nice to see that they work well together. Now let's add an image and see what happens. The admin of a gallery is unchanged. And there we are. It actually made this one a little bit bigger and this one smaller. Now let's try rearranging what we have and see what happens. There we go. So I put these two next to each other and put a great big one down here at the bottom. Something interesting to note is that all of these images maintain their original aspect ratio. This image actually is tall and narrow, and this one is short and wide. You get to see all of the image, even if it's very small. Let's add a whole bunch of images and see what happens. So many of these are actually similar in size, and so they can do things like stack them like this. It's interesting to note that the captions fit even on a small image. This one puts in an ellipsis. So now that we have a whole bunch of images, I want to show you one more thing that tiled galleries can do. Let's edit our gallery, and here in the side is type. Thumbnail grid is the original. There's tiled mosaic, square tiles, circles, and slideshow. Let's take a look at circles real quick. And there we are. I'm not a big fan, but it is interesting, and if it fits your design, it's available to you. Let's try one more. Let's try square tiles. There. Now that's fairly similar to the original. The images are a little bit bigger and there's less space between them. It's better than the original, but by far my favorite is still the tiled mosaic. Mostly because you get to see all of every image, even if it's shrunk, so you're less likely to miss something. All things considered, tiled galleries is a great addition to the look and feel of your site. In this session, we're going to look at a Jetpack module called Contact Form. You can see it here in the list. It comes automatically activated. It says each contact form can easily be customized to fit your needs. When a user submits your contact form, the feedback will be filtered through Akismet if it is active on your site. That's important. You can see in the screenshot here, it just puts a little icon above the post editor. So let's give it a shot. Let's edit this post. And here's the Add Contact form. Here's what it'll look like right now. There's name, email, website, and comment. And these little minuses let us remove one if we don't want it. We can also drag it around. Like this. Let's try adding a new field. Our options are checkbox, dropdown, email, name, radio, text, text area, or website. Let's just save it as text, and we'll make it required. Now let's look at the email notifications. This is where it's going to be sent. You can put in any address here and whatever subject you like. Now let's add this form to my post. As you can see, it's a collection of shortcodes. Let's hit update and see what it looks like. And there we are. You can see the required fields have the word required after them. Now I want to go back and edit one because I didn't put in my email address. Unfortunately, because it's just a collection of shortcodes, I can't simply edit this. So I have to delete it and start over. That's not really a pain with this particular one because I didn't really add anything. But if I had built an elaborate form, it would have been quite painful to re-edit. Let's add this one to the post. Hit update. And now I'll try sending. There, now right within this page, it prints what was sent. I'll click Go Back. Now I should have an email in my inbox. But you can also view it within WordPress itself. Here on the left is a feedback spot. And here are my form entries. Now I can optionally export all of these as a CSV, or I can delete the entries. I can mark them as spam or trash right here. And you'll note here that there's an IP address. This is the IP address that I submitted from. If you click it, it searches by that IP address. You can see all the form submissions from this IP address. This makes it easy to see all of the posts from a certain person. Then you can delete them or mark them all as spam. This is a pretty cool little module. It makes it really easy to just drop a form into a post or page. That said, I don't think it's as powerful or easy to use as a plugin like Contact Form 7, which is free, or Gravity Forms, which is by far the best, even though it's not free. So if your needs are very simple, this works great. If you need something a little more complex, I would look at Contact Form 7 or Gravity Forms. In this session, we're going to look at a Jetpack module called Extra Sidebar Widgets. These widgets work just like every other widget available in WordPress. These are just some extra functionality added by Jetpack. Let's click the Learn More. There's an RSS links widget, a Twitter widget, Facebook Likebox widget, an image widget, and there are a bunch more that aren't listed here. Clicking Configure simply takes us to the Widgets page. Now all of the widgets supplied by Jetpack have the word Jetpack in the title. Blog subscriptions. Add an email sign-up form to allow people to subscribe to your blog. The Facebook like box. A gallery. A Gravatar profile. An image. RSS links to your own site's RSS feeds. Send to ReadMill. ReadMill is the best book reader for phones and tablets. Top Posts and Pages shows your most viewed posts and pages, and Twitter Timeline. Let's take a look at a few of these. We covered blog subscriptions in another session, so we'll skip that one for now. Let's take a look at the Facebook like box. It wants a title. We'll just call it Facebook. And then a Facebook page URL. Note that it only works with Facebook pages. OS Training has a page. Let's grab theirs. There's width and height, color scheme, show faces, show stream, border, and wall, etc. Let's just hit save and see what we get. And here we are. Good old-fashioned Facebook like box. Let's see what else we have. There's gallery. Let's choose some images. And we'll choose several here. Link to can be carousel, attachment page, or media file. Now, Carousel is another Jetpack add-on that we covered in another session. I'm going to leave it at that. We can do tiles, square tiles, circles, or slideshow. Let's choose regular tiles and see what it looks like. And there we are. Now we have tiles available to us because we still have the Tiles Jetpack module there. Let's try it with square tiles. That's interesting. It doesn't look very square to me. Let's click one and see if it still does the carousel thing properly. Sure enough. Let's try a different widget. Let's try the image widget. give it a title, and it wants an image URL. This is interesting because it's not giving you a way to easily pull an image from your media library. You need to go get a URL from someplace. So let's do that. Let's try this one. There. And we will align it none, and we'll leave width and height empty. Let's link to ostraining.com. Now let's take a look and see what it looks like. And there it is. RSS links to the RSS feeds of your own site here. And there are your posts and comments. Readmill requires an account on Readmill, so we're going to skip that one for now. Top posts and pages by number of reads. This is actually a pretty boring list on this site because not very many people view this. Something important to note, though, is that it says views are calculated from 24 to 48 hours of stats. They take a while to change, so don't click around a bunch and expect to see this change right away. The last one is a Twitter timeline. This one also requires that you log into twitter.com and create a Twitter widget. So we're going to skip this one as well. Those are the Jetpack Extra widgets. Most of them are pretty cool. Some of them aren't for everybody. But I hope you find them useful. In this session, we're going to look at the Jetpack module, Shortcode Embeds. You can see it here. Shortcodes allow you to easily and safely embed media from other places in your site. With just one simple code, you can tell WordPress to embed YouTube, Flickr, and other media. Enter a shortcode directly into the post page editor to embed media. For specific instructions, follow the links below. There's a wide variety of things here, and we're actually going to look more at the documentation than show examples in my site, because the documentation is really excellent. You can click any one of these links and find out what they do. Let's click Archives. You can easily and quickly create an archive index of your WordPress.com blog's posts using the Archives shortcode. To create an archive index for your blog, simply add a new page or post and type the following shortcode into your visual editor. Now, because we're doing self-hosted WordPress, it'll do archives from your own blog. All this really is like the home page of your blog, or the page that you list all of your blog posts on. So you could create another one. There are some customization options, and you can show some drop-down options. So this is for basically embedding your own content in your own site in a new way. Let's look at another. Audio basically allows you to link to an audio file somewhere on the internet. Here's an example. Audio, and then a URL to an MP3, or an M4A, and it produces something like this. And that's all there is to it. Now, this assumes that your browser is able to play the audio file that you link to. For example, if your current browser does not support HTML5 audio for your uploaded format, or Flash Player is not installed, a direct download link will be displayed instead of the player. So it tries to play it via HTML5, and if it can't, it defaults to a Flash Player, and if it can't do that, then you get a download link. Let's look at the Flickr one. This is specifically for Flickr video. All you have to do is go to a video on Flickr, grab the URL, and put it in like this, or like this. And you end up with a video that looks like this. Very simple. Another one that's interesting is SoundCloud. SoundCloud is an audio player. And they specifically have a WordPress share option. So if you're looking at some audio on SoundCloud and you click share, there's the WordPress option, and you just copy this and paste it in. Now you can adjust it and get this sort of thing, and you end up with a player that looks like this. Some of these are interesting because it's duplication of functionality already in WordPress. Vimeo and YouTube, for example. Normally, all you need to do is paste the URL right into a post. Just like this. And it works. You can also do it with a shortcode, though. Like this. And then like this, you can do an entire playlist. And you get controls like this. Most of the controls in this shortcode are actually specific to YouTube. For example, rel equals 0 means you won't get any related videos at the end, and the width and height options are also from YouTube. Here are a whole bunch more examples. All of these work essentially the same way. They're in square brackets. You start with the shortcode you want, and then you can optionally pass in some arguments for sizes or location of your media, etc.
Hey, this is Topher. We're going to do a quick series here on WordPress.com stats, also known as Jetpack stats. If you're not familiar with Jetpack, you should check out the series we did on the whole plugin. But basically, Jetpack is a collection of plugins, and one of them is for setting up stats. Now, you may be familiar with Google Analytics, which stores a little JavaScript on your site and then keeps track of all your stats on their side. Well, Jetpack stats work very similarly. But one of the cool things is that it also works on the back end, on the server, so it can count things that JavaScript can't count. This is the page for Jetpack stats, and let's take a look at what we have here. You can view your stats in a dashboard widget, or on a page within your own site, or if you want even more detail, you can go to your panel at WordPress.com and view them there. The way you get set up is to have a WordPress.com account and then connect the plugin with that account. We'll go over that in a few minutes. Once they're connected, then your site is sending information to WordPress.com about your stats. And then you can start seeing things like this right in your dashboard. You'll almost certainly get different numbers from Jetpack stats than you will from Google Analytics, because they count in different ways. But keeping in mind that specific numbers are not what you should be looking for, then Jetpack stats can provide an excellent alternative and even something in addition to Google Analytics. So let's take a look at how to make them work for you. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of what Jetpack stats has to offer. I'm looking here at my dashboard for HeroPress.com, and you can see I have a nice large Jetpack dashboard widget, and it tells me some information. I connected it first on Friday, March 27th, and that's why there are so few views. But then Saturday and Sunday got very similar views. Monday, I promoted it just a little bit. Then Tuesday, not quite as much. And then today, it's only noon, and I already have more hits than ever before, because we published a new post. Here it says what my top posts are. Now keep in mind that I only hooked this up 5 days ago, and not only that, the site itself is not very old. At the bottom it says here that they blocked 18 malicious login attempts, and 1 spam comment was blocked by Akismet. There's a configure link here, and we can choose to show chart stats by day, week, or month, top posts over the past day, week, month, etc., and then top search items. I'm going to leave those alone. Now right here is a link to view all, and that goes to this page, still within our own site. Here's a chart similar to the one that was in the dashboard. I'm going to reload and see if today is our best day ever. And it is. You can see that today we had 126 views so far, and that is the best ever. All time is 546. Now as time goes on, you'll want this all-time number to continue to grow and grow. We can choose here weeks and then months. Mine's kind of boring since I only connected it about a week ago. One of the things that I particularly like with Jetpack Stats over Google Analytics is that it updates throughout the day. With Google Analytics, your choices are real-time, which shows you only about 10 minutes, or previous to today. So you have to wait till the end of the day to find out how you did. With Jetpack Stats, they update about every 5 minutes. They claim several times per day so that if they get overwhelmed by traffic, they're still meeting what they say. But in actuality, it's about every 5 minutes. And I really like that. Over on the right here is a summaries link. That goes to a longer range chart, which isn't very useful to us today. But after about a year, this is going to be great to see how things moved along throughout that year. Down below we have referrers, Twitter, WP Tavern, search engines, and then some other links. And if we click the plus, we can see some additional information. Over on the right is top posts and pages. And as you can see, my page titles are not very good, and I need to work on my SEO. But it tells me that this post, which was just posted today, is by far the most popular. Here are some search engine terms, and people aren't actually finding my site via search engines yet. It's all by word of mouth, whether that be Twitter or someplace like wptavern.com. Over here is clicks. These are links that people clicked on to leave my site. One of my authors wrote about Stack Exchange. My theme is by the Theme Foundry. One of my authors' personal blogs is Hook, Refine, and Tinker, and so on and so forth. That's just for today. Here's yesterday. And then if we click here, we can expand that. So there's today, and then we can look at 7 days, 30 days, quarter, year, and all time. Most of these widgets have a summaries link. So for example, if I go to the summaries for referrers, I can again look at 7 days, 30 days, quarter, year, and all time. Knowing how people find my site can be particularly useful. Now this is just the information right on my own site. There's lots more information at wordpress.com. And we'll take a look at that in the next video. In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the advanced information that you can get from Jetpack Stats. Right here on your dashboard is a link that says, did you know you can view enhanced stats on wordpress.com? Show me. And if you click it, it goes to your stats admin panel on wordpress.com. Now here it says I have 119 views with 68 visitors. And that's for showing days. So I'm going to reload, and now it says I have 126 views and 73 visitors. If I hover over a given day, it tells me information about that specific day. There's a checkbox here that I can check to turn off, showing me visitors. I can click just visitors and view just that, And I can look at likes and comments, of which I have 0, so that's kind of boring at the moment. At the top here we can switch to weeks, months, and years, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But for now, let's take a look at posts and pages. The little bars on the left are posts that happened today. Momentum is a blog post that actually just references this essay. So I can understand why it wouldn't get a lot of traffic by itself. There's a little arrow here at the top you can click to hide that box. And then this little button gives you more information about this section. If you click the title, it goes to a page with just that information. And then you also have the option to download this data as CSV. Then you can pull it into something like Excel and get all kinds of good information out of it. On the right here, you'll see that we have information about countries. And you can hover and get information about those countries. Now, I have more countries than fit in this dashboard, so I can click View All. Then I get a bigger map, and I get all the countries. And again, I can download the data as CSV and do whatever I wish with it. Referrers is always useful. It's great to know where your people are coming from. I really only have 4 referrers so far, which makes sense. I haven't been hooked up to stats that long, and I've focused mostly on Twitter to advertise my site. Clicks is something we went over on the dashboard and isn't very different here. Its big advantage on this page is that you could get more information than in your dashboard panel. And the same goes with search terms. People searched 3 times to find my site, and here it shows that it doesn't always tell us. We have some other options here at the bottom that I'm not utilizing. I don't have comments turned on my site, and so I'm never going to have information here. But if you do, you can get lots of good information about comments. Followers relates specifically to people who are following me within the WordPress.com ecosystem. If you use this ecosystem a lot, then this information can be very useful. If you don't, then you probably won't get anything out of it. And then, another plugin within Jetpack is called Publicize. When you make a post, you can publicize to your followers that you've done that. Again, if you use this, then it's great information. If you don't, you probably won't get anything out of it. Now at the top here, I mentioned weeks, months, and years. This affects all of these widgets. So as you can see here, I have far more referrers now than I did when I was looking at only daily. And my countries changed dramatically also. Now, I've had this set up since March, so I'm going to switch to months. And again, things can change dramatically. Now, as you can see, Jetpack Stats is not as comprehensive as Google Analytics. Google Analytics has many, many more metrics for looking at how people use your site. That said, Jetpack Stats can track some things that Google Analytics can't, simply because it has some PHP on your site and can track other things like PDF downloads, document downloads, etc. It can look at things like your followers and how you publicize to them. There's good information to be learned from both.